So Tom and I, Tom Bender, and I are going to do a little talk for you, a basic talk on choosing a pot for your tree. Now, the bonsai, the tree and the pot are as important as each other. The pot's extremely important. You can have an amazing tree, put it in the wrong pot, and you ruin the image, the overall image. So the pot is very important for the tree. When selecting the right pot for your tree, the first thing you need to think about is health. Health has got to be the most important thing for the tree. If the tree is not ready for a final pot, don't rush it, don't try and squeeze it in there just to get a nice pretty looking tree. It's not going to be good for the health of the tree, and in time it will go down in health. Once you know the tree is obviously really healthy for a couple of years, then yeah, you can start working into the right pot. Another point is, it is obviously a matter of personal taste as well. It is your tree. To a certain degree, you put what you like and what you think works. However, there are some certain guidelines that obviously have been laid out and work. On a very basic level, you have the unglazed pots and the glazed pots. So for unglazed pots, conifers tend to work best, and for glazed pots, to pick out the delicate colours in the leaves and the delicate leaves, glazed pots tend to work better, obviously, for deciduous trees. There are some, that's not always fitted as set in stone, and obviously there are some conifers that are deciduous as well, like larches or swamp cypresses. For those, I think it's very important to pick when you want to show your tree. I was just having a chat with another great potter, Thor, and I was saying to him that personally I wasn't overly enamoured by one of his pots I saw, a turquoise pot with a larch in it. But that's because I saw it when it was in green leaf. He said if you'd seen that when it was in yellow in the autumn, when the leaves had gone yellow, it works really well. And I didn't consider that, to be honest. And so I think you need to think, when does the tree look its best? When do I want to show it? And then you need to harmonise the tree and the pot for that specific time. Some people say you should have 3 pots for one tree if you want to show it at different times of the year, maybe. That sort of thing. Nextly, moving on to size. There are again a few rules which, once you get your head around them, you can break. But it's good to know them. Firstly, with regards to the length of the pot, the width of the pot, we tend to use 2/3 the height of the tree as the width of the pot, unless you have a literati, a thin, tall tree, and then you can go down to 1/3 or even a 1/6. But working in thirds tends to work very well. It's aesthetically, it tends to work well. It's a mathematical proportion of aesthetics that works well. As well as size, you need to think about the masculinity or femininity of the trees. Trees can be very masculine, as in rugged bark, and then with pots there is masculinity and femininity as well. In pots, straight lines tend to be masculine, curves tend to be feminine. Deeper pots, rectangles tend to be masculine, round, shallows tend to be more feminine. And then there's also details which will soften a masculine pot or make a feminine pot a little bit more masculine. So you can really fine-tune the masculinity of the pot and the tree to harmonise perfectly as well. With regards to the depth of the tree, of the pot, and the width, there are potentially 2 types of image you can go for. With a deeper pot, which quite often an inch above the Nabari, one general rule, is a good idea for the pot, it tends to work. But with a deeper pot, it tends to be a portrait image. Yeah? So in effect, it's as if you're standing here looking up at this big tree right in front of you. Whereas if you put it in a thinner, longer pot, like this one here, it's more of a landscape image. Yeah? It's more of a wider landscape image. So it gives the impression more of a tree on the landscape in the distance, and you'll see the silhouette, the beautiful silhouette of the tree in the distance. So the pots can very much affect how one tree will look. And then obviously moving on to colours. Colours can also be masculine and feminine. Generally speaking, conifers, as I said before, unglazed pots, but still with different conifers, different unglazed colours, so clays. So for a juniper, which might have a ruddy bark, a nice reddish clay would pick up on that really well, work really well. With deciduous trees, again, you're looking for the colours in the leaves perhaps. You don't want the same colour pots, but you want something that contrasts nicely. So you wouldn't have a yellow pot and yellow leaves. You could do, but I think quite often contrasting will work better than actually having the same. You see what I mean? But at the end of the day, it is your pot, it is your tree, it's your decision. But I say these certain rules are good to learn because it's a basis that you can go forward from there and then make up your own mind how you want to do things. I mentioned details. I mean, this is quite a feminine tree. It's a Kyohin, Palmatum Kyohin, and I would generally put that in an oval pot because it is a feminine tree. I wouldn't go round because the round of the pot and the round of the tree will clash. So if you've got a round tree, go for an oval or a rectangle. This is obviously a rectangle, but it's slightly softened by the incised corners and rounded tops. So I'd say this is more of a feminine rectangle rather than a masculine, straight-sided, harsh sort of rectangle. So they can work well with feminine trees as well. Whereas a rectangle is generally for, say, a more masculine tree. This trident's not particularly masculine, so I've gone for something with softer colours, incised corners. The cloud feet add some negative space as well and soften it and make the pod seem a bit more shallow, but it's still got the good depth for the roots, which work well with the girth of the trunk as well. So it's all about proportions and getting that contrast and harmony between the colours, the shapes and the textures in the tree and the pot, quite largely. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm very happy that Alex told you something about these basics, and honestly I must say, because I would not be able to talk much about the basics or these rules which can guide you in choosing the right pot for your tree, because I always just listen to my heart, or I just know what I see, I like it or I don't like it, and I know it works for me. I'm not afraid choosing a pot like that.
Is that a personal choice, Tom? There's no hard and fast rules, though, is there? It's personal choice.
Personal choice, which is usually appreciated, or I didn't understand much.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that, of course, there are these rules. They can guide you to the right pot, but always you have to be the one who is satisfied with the pot. It's your tree, and you are putting it in some pot, and you just have to know that you really like the pot. No one should tell you this is breaking the rules. If it's breaking the rules, but you like it, then it's perfectly okay with me. You know, for a comparison, you love your tree and you love your wife. You love your tree, and what's the best pot for your tree? You love your wife and you love her in a dress, beautiful dress. You love her in bikini. You love her in wedding dress. Some pots are like wedding dress. They have lots of fine details, and then I hear from some part of the people, this is too strong pot. It will distract the attention from the tree. But is that really true? Does the wedding dress distract the attention from your beautiful wife then? I think this is something what I hear so often, but really doesn't make sense to me. So basically I wanted to encourage you to listen to your own feelings. Okay, The rules are there to guide you somewhere, but don't be afraid to break them in the end. That was my point.
I think to a certain extent, I completely agree with you. And I think in a way you don't need to know the rules. If you've had lots of experience looking at other trees, you start to just get a feeling for it, don't you? You start to, like you say, it just works. You know it works, but you don't know why.
Yeah.
Because you've had a lot of experience looking at lots of trees, and you subconsciously know, well, this doesn't work, this does work, without actually having the rules. So I think, as we said before, it is your tree, it's your pot, it's your taste. You choose what works for you. But at the same time, the more you experience good trees, the more you get to see really good trees and good pots, you will just subconsciously learn what works and doesn't work without needing the rules. It's one of the, but at the beginning, it's good to have a guideline of those rules just to sort of to guide you in the right directions. Yeah. But I think that's a very valid point. It is taste. It's from the heart. It has to be from the heart. It's what works. I mean, to be honest, I put this trident in this Andy Pearson Stone Monkey pot, and I do like it. I think it would also work very well in an oval, even the pot is slightly larger, slightly deeper oval, but it would completely change the image of the tree. Completely change it. And I wanted more of an upright sort of portrait style rather than a softer landscape style for it, which is why I chose this pot in the end. I'm not saying this is the right pot for it, not at all. It's what I chose at the time because of the image I wanted to get, the overall image, not just the tree, but the overall image that I was going for. And yeah, the pot can make a huge difference and can completely change the overall image as well.
But again, it will also work. It will also work, and it's up to you and your feeling where you want to go with the overall image. You want to highlight something in the tree, and someone else sees something else in your tree, and that's why he would recommend you to choose another pot. But in the end, it's you. It's your bonsai, and it's this half of it is the pot. So it's also very important so that you are satisfied with it. You must be sure that this image is the one I really want to show, and if it's breaking the rules for someone, okay, maybe for this pot, for me it's just a little bit deeper than I would choose, but it will work so well in an oval too. It will be a different image, but if the owner of the tree is satisfied with that image, why not?
Would you feel that asking a potter for the potter's opinion of the tree is sort of like a good guide, the best guidance? It ultimately is the owner's decision.
Yeah.
But a potter is very, very so much experience changing the tree around. Would you feel that that's the case? And just talking to potters.
Very interesting point. I think one thing is that some potters do bonsai, some potters don't, to be totally honest. I think the guy, I mean like Tom's done bonsai for a long time, so he understands what the tree needs from a pot. So yeah, I think if you get a potter who understands bonsai, then 100% yeah, then their input is really definitely important. But I think it's your tree, so really you want you want your image, your ideas as well. But yeah, I think that's a very good start, definitely.
Yeah, every time when I get a question like this, or when I'm dealing with the end customer, I always tell him the same I already told you. Like, I want your opinion. I want to know where you want to go. Or there's a second option. What's really my choice? Sometimes I really feel like, hey, please, you should go this way. I really feel this pot like this, it would work. Let's try it. Or I make the pot, in my opinion, I also make the pot following your thoughts. But I never push, or I try to push a little, but I always offer the second option following your instructions.
But if you enjoy a potter's work, if you own a tree, surely you would want that potter to have an input as well.
I've given photographs to potters before and said, can you make me a pot? I don't care what it is, you do what you think.
Yes.
If I, as you say, if I have faith in that potter and I like his style and I think that he knows what the tree needs, then yeah, by all means. Yeah, exactly, very much so, very much so. I've just noticed with the rock planting actually, I mentioned landscape and portrait trees. So to a certain degree, the landscape tree is a tree in the distance, you're looking at the silhouette. So the pot needs to be shallow because you almost want it not to be there to a certain extent. Rock plantings, again, they are in the distance a sort of silhouette of a huge great cliff with trees on it. They are always going to be planted in a very shallow dish. If you put it in a big deep thing, it would not look right at all because you've got this huge ground underneath your rock, which you almost want there to be nothing there, just the rock coming up with the trees off it. So for the landscape, we did very shallow pots.
What about bright coloured pots?
Bright coloured pots.
Because there are a lot of pots for sale that are very bright nowadays.
There are indeed.
So where do they fit into the scheme?
In Japan, things have changed quite a lot recently. In the last 5 years or so, the population of Japan has actually shrunk 2 or 3 million, whereas Tokyo has increased 1 million. Land is getting smaller, everyone's got balconies rather than gardens now. So shohin has become a lot more popular over the last 5, 10, 15 years. In a shohin display, you want colours to draw your eye and lead your eye to the different pots. Larger trees don't tend to work in bright coloured pots unless it's a flowering tree and it harmonises and complements the colours of the flowers well. But generally speaking, small, loud pots, whether they're painted or glazed in bright colours, only for your smaller trees, really, I would say, in my opinion.
And then there's the question of aging, the patina. Some glazes really become matte. They were shining in the beginning, but after many years they become more matte. But
How would you recommend? So encouraging the aging
you have to use the pot. It will never age if it's standing on a shelf in your living room. If you don't have the right tree for it, still use it for another tree, or have do someone a starter plant in it or something. But use it because the pot needs the life in it, the life coming into the walls and slowly through the walls to the glaze. But if the pot stands in a box somewhere, it will never get the age.
I collect Japanese pots and I will use very expensive Japanese pots as training pots. I dig something up and put it in a very expensive, nice Japanese pot. Because in Japan and China, the older a pot is, the more patina it's got. This is a Yamaki pot, which was originally cream, sort of whitish cream. You can see the patina that's built up over time. And as Tom says, if you've got a really old tree, the last thing you want is a bright, shiny new pot. You want it to dull down. You want the patina you want the age to be harmonised as well as just the shapes and the colours as well. So yeah, I agree with you very much. I tend to keep as many of my pots outside as I can and let them get rained on. And I don't know how true it is, but I've heard in Japan they throw cups of coffee, cups of tea on it and things. It's just, whatever. And keep them under the benches so that the fertilisers, once they water them, come through onto them and everything as well. So yeah, I think age is another very important aspect of it as well.
I realized I also had this issue when selling the pots, that the customer was almost sure that he likes the pot for the tree, but was not 100% sure, but coming all over again. And in that moment, I know that there is a story which very often really works, that you have a pot, you are almost sure it fits the tree, you put the tree in it, and you find out that, okay, now it doesn't work. But in a few years they grow together. The design of the pot can affect the tree in just 2 or 3 years, and they fit together so much. And then I'm so happy that the pot also affected the tree in the end. There's also this possibility, and I really experienced it many times in my life.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Right, I hope that was of some use. If anyone has got any questions, obviously, come and fire them at us at any time.